Did you know that there are different types of burglary in California? We're going to talk about that in this video. Hi everyone, Attorney Joe McPeak with Virtuoso Criminal and DUI Lawyers. In this video, I'm going to talk about the different types of burglary under California law. Burglary is broken down into two degrees: first-degree burglary and second-degree burglary. We get these distinctions in California Penal Codes 459 and 460. The California Penal Code section 459 defines burglary as entering of an inhabited building of any kind with the intent to commit a theft or any felony. California Penal Code section 460 breaks burglary down into two degrees. Burglary of some sort of dwelling, be it a house, a houseboat, an apartment, even temporary lodging rooms, or even like a hospital room has been actually held to count under this. Any kind of structure that's designated for somebody to live or dwell in, whether that person is actually there or not, even temporarily, is burglary of the first degree. Any other type of burglary, according to California Penal Code 460, is burglary of the second degree. A lot of cases of burglary that we see first degree cases where the allegation is that our client broke into someone else's house or apartment. That would usually count as burglary of the first degree, or a motorhome. Second degree burglary usually comes up when it comes to people breaking into stores to try to steal items. There's a big difference in penalty between first degree and second degree burglary. First degree burglary is commonly called residential burglary, or res-burg, because again, the structure that's being entered or broken into is meant for somebody to live in, reside there, or stay there. Conviction of that could carry a prison sentence of 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years. And it's also considered a strike offense. Making matters even worse, if you commit a residential burglary where somebody is actually present, then it becomes not only a serious strike, but a violent strike, even if that person is not actually hurt. So multiple layers to the punishment you could get for a residential burglary in California. That it would be a strike offense no matter what. You could be suffering up to 6 years of prison. And also it could be a violent strike, which is one of the worst kind of strikes you can get, because the time credit you're allowed to accrue on that sentence is definitely more burdensome than if it were just a serious felony, even though it's still a strike. Non-residential burglary, burglary of the second degree, which, like I said, comes in situations where commercial establishments, stores, warehouses, factories, etc., are maybe hit for a burglary charge. The punishments there are lesser. If you're sent to prison, you could get 16 months, 2 years, or 3 years. But on top of that, you don't even have to necessarily be convicted of a felony version. You could get a misdemeanor conviction of second-degree burglary. Yes, that is right. Second-degree burglary in California wobbles. It wobbles. Now, on that note, for those of you guys who've been paying really close attention to the elements of the offense that I just explained, you might be thinking, hey, what about a situation where somebody enters a store during business hours? They shoplift. They go into the store for the purposes of stealing, and then they leave with that. Are you going to say that's going to be treated as burglary in that situation? Well, fortunately, the answer is no. Your typical retail theft cases, shoplifting cases are normally not treated as burglary in California law because between 459 and 460 is California Penal Code section 459.5, which specifically says that shoplifting cases will be treated as shoplifting, notwithstanding the fact that they appear to meet the elements of second-degree burglary. Yes, a shoplifter is also entering a commercial establishment with the intent to steal and then does steal, but that is treated just as shoplifting, not actually burglary, even if, when you think about it on its face, it could be treated as a burglary. So be on the lookout for that if you think your burglary case is being mischarged. One other thing that's interesting is the fact that they have to prove the defendant intended to commit theft or some other type of felony when they entered the structure. Now, if you look closer, my old friend, the California jury instructions, you'll see something that says the DA has to prove that the defendant had that unlawful intent at the time of entry, but the jury does not necessarily have to agree on what type of felony the defendant intended to commit at the time of entry. They just have to prove they intended to actually commit theft or a felony. They don't have to actually agree on what type of unlawful intent the defendant had when they entered. They just have to prove that they had it in some form. Definitely things that are interesting to discuss if you're fighting a burglary charge. Could you be convicted of burglarizing your own home? Well, no, because if you have an unconditional right of access to the structure anyway, well, then it's not burglary because you're still entering the structure lawfully. Even if you do intend to commit some sort of unlawful activity once inside, it's not burglary of your own home. You might be prosecuted for other things that you do when you're inside, but if you have an unconditional right of access to the structure, then it's not going to be treated as burglary, or it shouldn't be. However, there are some complications that might arise. If there was like a landlord-tenant dispute, maybe my client was kicked out of the structure earlier, now they're trying to break back in. There's lots of other issues that can come up there, like did they just intend to get their own stuff back and therefore lack the unlawful intent when they entered? Maybe, but in that situation, it's still an initial unlawful entry and could still give rise to a burglary charge because that defendant no longer had the unconditional right of access to the structure. For more on this, always feel free to check our website. Thanks, and stay safe out there.